Tonight, America under attack. Horrible images as terrorists strike against symbols of wealth and power. The casualty count unknown, the damage unspeakable. I'm Larry King. We'll have a full hour with lots of guests. We begin with the governor of New York, George Pataki. Governor Pataki, what can you tell us when you bring us up to date on statistics here? We have to go through this. Firemen, policemen, people, what?
Well, Larry, we're just not looking at statistics yet. We're still doing everything in our power to do the searching and rescue efforts because we hope there are still people that can be rescued. The city has the finest emergency forces anywhere in the world, and we've augmented them with our National Guard and state emergency forces as well. And there's an ongoing effort to try to rescue as many people as possible and to make sure we provide the best possible care to those who have been injured. So the time for counting is later. The time for action is now, and that action is underway.
We do know, however, that 200 firemen and 78 policemen are missing, right?
We do know that numbers of police and fire are missing, and it's a tribute to their heroism, that they went down there and risked their lives to protect others and try to save other lives. And, you know, Larry, this is a very dark day for America. But out of the darkness, you see the spirit and you see the hope. I was at St. Vincent's Hospital a little while ago visiting some of the injured firemen and injured policemen, and they were asking about if they could go back to try to do more to help uncover their comrades and the people who are still at risk. So the spirit is strong. We will get through this.
Governor, you've been close to being inside and near this. Can you tell us what's going on?
Well, there's still very great risk downtown, possible additional building collapses. So that's why we've ordered, along with the mayor, New York City south of 14th Street to be shut down. And right now it's simply a matter of trying to contain fires and work through the rubble. We have National Guard heavy equipment, wreckers and tow trucks and others on trying to help out with the police and fire who are going through the rubble and trying to just find as many people that we can save and rescue and help those who need our help as possible. At the same time, we're making sure that the city and the surrounding area is as secure as possible. And again, Larry, I got to tell you that the spirit of the people has been enormous. They haven't been intimidated by this horrible act of cowardly terror. I was just out on a block where for blocks people were lined up waiting to donate blood, not cowed by this terrorism, but showing their faith in America and belief in tomorrow, and that's what we have to make sure triumphs here.
Governor, how close have you gotten to the scene itself?
I've gotten downtown, but I haven't gotten all the way down to the towers themselves, perhaps later on. But what I've been trying to do is coordinate response and make sure that we have the best possible efforts, and I believe we do. And Larry, I also want to say that the cooperation, not just of the city and the state, but the surrounding states, the federal officials have mobilized resources from around the country to help us out, and they are here. And we've gotten expressions of support and condolences from around the world, and we're going to get through this. We're united as a people, we're strong as a people, and we will get through this and make America and New York even stronger.
We know the military's on full alert and aircraft carriers are coming to your harbor. Is there fear of possibly more?
Well, Larry, I think the federal government's looking to reassure us by having this presence, and we're delighted to have that reassurance. There can never be guarantees. No one predicted this. No one anticipated or had advance warning of this attack. So you never know what tomorrow might bring. But my understanding from my communications with the President and the White House is that they are unaware of any additional specific threats. Obviously, we are on the highest possible state of security and alert, and will continue to be so. Where
were you when you heard of the first crash?
I was in the city, and I got a call to turn on the television. There was a plane hit the World Trade Center, and then I saw the second one and immediately called the White House and spoke with the President in a very short period of time and urged him to shut down the airspace around New York, and they immediately shut down the airspace around the country. And who knows what else may have happened if the President hadn't taken that step.
He was in Florida, so he patched you right through.
Right.
What was his response when you got him on the phone?
He was very supportive, offering to do anything the federal government could do, told us that they had gone to the highest possible alert and were undertaking all the security steps that could possibly be taken. And then immediately after that, he shut down the airspace around the country, to his credit, and I'm pleased that that step was taken.
Will New York airports open tomorrow?
We're not predicting at this point. We'll stay in close touch with the federal emergency officials. They are calling the shots. They're the ones who are in charge of the security analysis, and they'll make the determination when the New York City airports should reopen.
Thank you, Governor Pataki. Thanks for giving us the time.
Thank you, Larry.
Next, we go to Washington, D.C., where James Baker, the former Secretary of State, is standing by. Is this, Mr. Secretary, a failure on the part of American policy?
I don't think it's a failure on the part of American policy, Larry. I think that there probably were perhaps some lapses in security. It would be well, I think, for us to consider beefing up some of our intelligence capabilities, particularly our ability in the areas of human intelligence, which we have been sort of de-emphasizing since the mid-70s. But I don't think it's a policy failure. And if by that you mean that it's linked somehow to what may or may not be happening in the Middle East peace process, I would be very leery of making too direct a connection there. You know, my favorite suspect here, and I have no inside information with respect to this, is Osama bin Laden. He seems to be the favorite suspect of a lot of people. And this guy has done some things in the past that didn't depend on whether or not we were making progress toward peace in the Middle East or not. I mean, if you remember the bombings of the embassy in Kenya and Tanzania, the Khobar Towers bombing in Saudi Arabia. So I wouldn't make too direct a connection to the Middle East peace process.
The president said we will take action and see no difference between those who committed the crime and those who harbored them. That's a direct threat against anybody around this. Do you expect to see retaliatory action soon?
Well, I don't know how soon you will see it. I would expect to see it. We have contingency plans. We had them way back when I was dealing with these issues for the United States. And I remember well, as a matter of fact, Larry, when I was meeting with the foreign minister of Iraq in the lead up to the Gulf War in 1991, and I warned him against using weapons of mass destruction against American forces. I said the American people will demand retribution, and we have the means to exact it. And I think they took that to heart. They didn't use weapons of mass destruction, but I think the American people, following the tragic events of today, are going to demand retribution, and I think the United States does have the means to exact it, and I think we will.
Mr. Secretary, when you fear terrorism, as all of us have to fear it to be logical human beings, it's around us, did you ever think of anything like this?
Not anything of this scale. I mean, you have to really be amazed, or at least I'm amazed, at the degree of success. 4 airplanes were hijacked. 75%, 3 out of the 4, found their targets. We haven't had a hijacking in this country in over 10 years. And yet these people were successful in hijacking the aircraft, not only hijacking them, taking control of them, flying them into their intended targets. It really is rather surprising and rather amazing. And I'm reminded also, Larry, of the successes that American counterterrorism and counterintelligence forces have had through the years. I remember during the time that I served, any number of instances where we would have a threat and we would catch it in time and we would roll it up. We would prevent it from happening. That happened over and over and over again. It didn't happen today, quite tragically. We didn't catch this one.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Good seeing you.
Thank you, Larry. Good to see you.
Secretary James Baker, the former Secretary of State. Now we go back to New York. Standing by are Teresa Ward. She worked in the World Trade Center, in the number 2 World Trade Center on the 33rd floor. Bill Heitman, who worked on the 81st floor, was also working at the time of the 93 bombing. John Averone, who works at the World Trade Financial Center, that's right next door. And Tim Cavanaugh, who works about a quarter mile away from the World Trade Center. He was on the phone to a friend who works in the World Trade Center, was suddenly cut off. And Rose Arce, our CNN producer in New York, who's been on the scene. She's outside. There's Rose. All day long, it seems, on top of this. Let's start with Teresa. Where were you, Teresa? What happened?
I was in my office, just starting my day, booting up my computer, having my coffee, and we felt the building shudder. And at first, we didn't really know what was happening, but we all sort of walked out of our offices and looked around. And as we looked out the window towards the West Side Highway, we saw nothing but paper and debris floating from the sky. It was, overwhelming.
Did you panic?
Actually, we didn't. There were a lot of people in my office that were in the '93 bombing, so everyone just sort of decided to leave, and everybody left in an orderly fashion via the stairs. And it was very orderly. In fact, everybody was really calm. So we were fortunate in that regard.
Now, is it true, Teresa, when you were outside, they told you it was okay to go back in?
No, actually, what happened was we were in the stairwell. I was on the 9th floor, and there was an announcement on the PA system that basically said that there was an incident in One World Trade, but that Two World Trade was okay, and that you could return to your offices. It was okay. And at that point, a few coworkers and I jumped on the elevator, and we thought for a moment about going back up, then thought better of it, and decided to go down. And at that point, we had no clue what was happening with One World Trade or Two World Trade. And when we got out to the street, it was just pandemonium.
Teresa, do you know why you didn't go back up despite the fact the announcement said you could?
Well, it just seemed like there was so much going on, and we felt that it would be better, as everyone was exiting the building already, to just gather with everybody from my firm on the concourse level. So it just seemed like the sensible thing to do at the time, and in retrospect, probably saved a lot of lives.
Good instinct. Bill Heitman worked in World Trade Center 1, the first building hit. He was working on the 81st floor. What was happening? And you were also in the 93, right, Bill?
Yes, I was.
Yeah. What happened at the moment of impact? Where were you? What happened?
At the moment of impact, I was knocked out of my chair, and we just briefly panicked and headed towards the middle of the floor to get away from the windows. And then we headed for the stairwell and started heading down from the 81st floor in an orderly fashion. And aside from some people that were suffering from asthma, and some injured, it was actually well-spirited going down, until we started getting down to the 30s and the 40s.
Then what?
And the firemen started passing us, and we're collapsing on the stairs.
The firemen were collapsing?
Yes, just from the loads they were carrying, the oxygen tanks, the hoses. It was really bad. It was tough to see these guys.
Did you say to yourself, "Here we go again"?
Yes, I did. But at this particular point, it didn't seem like it was a bombing. And after the initial crash going down, it seemed like the worst of it was over.
And you did or did not know it was a plane?
We had heard when we were in the stairwell. Probably it took a total of an hour for me and the people that I was to get downstairs. We had heard when we were about halfway down that a plane some kind of plane had hit, but at that point we thought it was small, a helicopter, a small craft airplane.
As soon as you got out, what did you do?
I beg your pardon?
When you got out of the building, what did you do? Did you hang around or take off?
As soon as we got down to the lobby level, I myself was actually surprised at the damage that there was to the concourse level of the Trade Center. I thought at that point the condition would look not as damaged, but as soon as we got downstairs, we were walking in ankle-deep water, and there seemed to be this an urgency to just get us out of the building, where I thought that people were just going to be directed to like triage units or something. But once I stepped outside onto the street there was something really wrong. And that's when I think the fear of the buildings collapsing really became apparent. And I had only been out of the building less than a minute